Okay, welcome to the latest Downtown Den event, and we're looking today at the future for placemaking marketing. I'm delighted to be joined by an array of talent from right across the Northern Powerhouse. We have Belinda Eldridge from Leeds, Chris Brown from Liverpool, Rachel McQueen, Lancashire, and Sheona Southern from Manchester. Each of them will tell us a little bit more about their respective roles, I'm sure, as we get into the conversation. But in a nutshell, these are the people who are responsible for leading strategies, policies to sell our cities. And increasingly over the past few years, I think it would be fair to say that there's been a good degree of collaboration and cooperation across the North, so that where it's sensible, these guys work together to make the offer an even better proposition. We know of the challenges that we're all facing at the moment, both as businesses, and if you're in the jobs that these people have, then it's particularly difficult at the moment. But we're trying to be positive and upbeat today, because despite all of those challenges, I think it'd be fair to say that everybody on this call is still confident about the future of the places where we operate. So, Chris, I'm going to come to you first as our token male on the panel today, and it's great to see that, actually. But Chris, I just wanted to pick up on something that's quite innovative happening in the city of Liverpool, which of course is the testing that's going on. It's got a lot of national coverage today. Just tell us a little bit about the thinking around that.
Yeah, I mean, the COVID mass testing exercise starts today for the next 10 days in the city. We think it's a huge opportunity for the city to get a better understanding of exactly where we're up to with the virus, and enable us to potentially get on top of the virus. And if we can get on top of the virus, it gives us a chance to get back to doing the things that we want to do, and that isn't to be experiencing lockdown. I think the city has been working with government on this for some time now. It really heralds back to some work the city did when we had an outbreak in Prince's Park earlier in the summer, when the city took on a localized approach to dealing with that outbreak. And then from there, I think it was a part of a conversation. I think it's been a nationwide conversation about moving the responsibilities for test, track and trace more to a local level and less centralized at government level. So I think this does give us an opportunity to see what we can do within the city. It will have its challenges. It's a pilot, but and we've got to try and drive people from the city to participate in the testing, so that we get as many of the population tested as possible. But I think the prize for us, and I think we have to look at what the prize is for us, is that it may enable us, come the 2nd of December, to feel that we might have an opportunity of enjoying the last 20 odd days building up to Christmas, of having some sense of things open and business coming back to some degree of normality. I think the other side of it is if this mass testing works and we can get the rapid results that it promises, then it might also be an angle for us to reopen our event sector. So if we are able to open up our event venues, which have been so badly hit over the last number of months, and you are able to undertake rapid testing before you enter an auditorium or an arena, and know that you're going in there negative, then that might be the start of an opportunity to reopen the event sector as well. So we're very excited about it. It's challenging, but I think it's a great opportunity. It's one that the city has fully embraced, and I'm sure the population of the city will fully embrace too.
And just let's touch on Christmas for a moment, because the Prime Minister was fairly certain yesterday in his assertion that we would be open on December the 2nd. I'm not quite sure the scientists that were stood alongside him was as confident. But, this is where the difficult nature of the jobs that you guys in particular do comes in, because you can't just put a pause on Christmas planning, can you? You've got to presume that on December the 2nd, lockdown will be lifted. And therefore, Chris, I'll stick with you, but then I'll move on to the other panelists. What are the plans Liverpool has for Christmas? Fingers crossed, all things being equal, we can get back to some form of normality.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, that we know this period we're in now, particularly as we enter December for the retail sector, is a absolutely critical phase for them, as it is for hospitality and tourism. So if we are unable to do anything in December, that the impact we think on the economy come January will be fairly devastating. So we want to try and get some degree of activity undertaken in December, but it won't be the same as we are used to doing in the city. It's not going to be an event-driven exercise. It'll be a very traditional approach with COVID very much in mind. And I think the problem with it is that we just don't know what the exit strategy beyond December is. And if we were to just simply go back into tier 3, then that actually really isn't going to take us a great deal further forward than we have been going where we are in lockdown now, because in essence, tier 3 was virtually locking us down anyway. So I think there's clearly uncertainty about what government strategy is beyond the 2nd of December. And therefore, our planning is really difficult to do at the moment, because like you say, we can't suddenly turn around on the 2nd of December to say to businesses, right, you can open tomorrow. They need time to plan for that. When we opened up retail and hospitality back in the summer, those businesses needed 3-4 weeks in terms of getting themselves prepared, getting their supplies ready, their supply chain activated in order to take advantage. So we certainly are pressing to get to a situation by the middle of November that we've got a pretty clear indication from government what their plans are beyond the 2nd, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for us to plan anything. But we know sort of event driven this time round, it will be a very traditional approach, but we really want to give people some hope and confidence that they will be able to enjoy something of Christmas in the city if they possibly can. And I think that's what we've got to grasp onto, and just hope that we can realise that ambition and aspiration through the course of the next few weeks. But because I think having nothing taking place in December will be an economic catastrophe for us.
And Sheona, I'll come to you in Manchester, and just we were saying before we came online, the city was in such a good place, as all the places in the Northern Powerhouse were, really. As we entered 2020, we were looking forward to what was going to be a really fabulous year. And I know that Manchester had an array of events planned and some great activities that were going to take place. Not to mention, the normal things, the football and the airport and all of that sort of stuff. But with Christmas coming, we'll look ahead to 2021 in a moment, but with Christmas coming, the Manchester markets are something that are usually up and running by now. What are the sort of things that you think confidently we can start to plan for this, and we might just be able to deliver it?
Thanks, Frank. You just made me think back and think about all the good things at the start of the year there. So we just launched a New York partnership, new routes coming in, a whole plethora of cultural launches. They're still going to happen in the next couple of years. We've still got the factory opening. RHS will open next year. We've got a second arena on the cards, and then also Therme, massive spa complex. So they're still on the cards for the next couple of years. So in terms of being optimistic, they're still there in the medium to longer term. But to the next couple of months, we've got to assume it's going to open again on the 2nd of December, and we're planning for that. So if it doesn't happen, we'll just roll our campaigns forward. And I think, like all of us on this call, we've had so many campaigns ready to go, had to pull them, tweak them, repurpose them. It's been it's been tricky. Nevertheless, we've got Halloween, we've got all our monsters all over the city, which is pretty, you can do that and be really safe. We've got a 500 windows project working with the retailers. And the idea of that, they bring to life their windows with anything. This amazing creativity. So we've involved all the cultural organisations with that. And then on the hospitality side, we've got a Have a Night on Us, which launched for like 2 days or 3 days, maybe. We pulled it, so we'll bring it back out again.
Okay.
And we've just shaken off our Manchester vs. You virtual content, which we launched at the very start of our lockdown 1. And that is cultural, really rich cultural content, some educational content, and we're going to add in some health and wellbeing stuff as well. Super hyper local focused, so that's worked really well, just to keep the prominence of the destination up, and all of GM's being involved with that. But our main campaign running through all of that was Find Your Space. And that was find your space in the many definitions of that, you know, find your space in terms of headspace, or literally getting out to the outdoors, or find your own space within the city or towns. And then we've also worked with the university on Space to Learn, which is good, and we'll do a Space to Meet whenever our conference and events venues open up. So there's plenty going on, but I think the big challenge is getting people back into the corporates, back into the office. So we've got back to, I'm not allowed to say back to work because everybody's working already, back to the office campaign, working with many of our developers and our corporates, because, and we tried this earlier on about 2 months ago, and then the Prime Minister said, no, work from home if you can. So we've got that, you're kind of ready to go. We'll be quite big on it, because I think in terms of the evidence behind working in the office, quite a few people have got used to working at home, but there is evidence that a hybrid type of working arrangement is really good for business and good for commercial. So, you know, many of the businesses who are back in the office, you know, 40–50% of the staff are doing well. So we're doing a piece of research with our partners to help evidence that campaign going forward. But I think that's the biggest thing, is getting people back in that support the wider tourism, hospitality and leisure side, you know, back into our towns and cities again for the whole ecosystem. So I think that's a big job we've all got on our hands.
Yeah, working from work is the future, Sheona.
Yeah, escapes the office.
Yeah, I can't claim credit for that line. It's Lisa Morton from one of your great PR agencies in Manchester. Yeah. And Belinda, I feel for all of the cities and for Lancashire in terms of where we are at this moment in time, because none of us could have predicted what was going to happen, and everyone had great plans, as I've said, for 2020. But I particularly feel for my friends and colleagues in Leeds, because not only have you won the Channel 4 bid with much to celebrate around those guys coming to the city, but after many years, Leeds United finally get to the Premier League. And I know for a fact that, you know, the hotels, the bars, the restaurants are really excited about the increased footfall and traffic that will bring. And you've not yet quite been able to benefit from that. So my heart goes out to you. But equally, I know, having spoken to Tom Reardon only a couple of weeks ago, there's still a lot of positivity in Leeds, isn't there?
Absolutely. And, you know, the main point is that Leeds has achieved Premiership status. So there will be plenty of opportunity in 2021 onwards to capitalise on that. Yeah, we've got lots to look forward to in 2021. You know, we've got we can capitalise on the Leeds 2023. We're working towards that in terms of the cultural picture. You know, we've got the Leeds Rhinos won the Challenge Cup. They were Challenge Cup winners. We're also hosting the Rugby League World Cup and the triathlon in 2021. So there's plenty of opportunity to increase that footfall. In the immediate, though, obviously with Christmas, we are hoping to herald the end of the national restrictions on December the 2nd with the switch on of the lights, albeit it will probably be virtual. And, you know, as Sheona was just saying, you know, we're looking to the corporates at the moment as to what their position is. A lot of them are talking about a hybrid situation. But in addition to that, we also have a number of positive sort of affirmations that businesses are going to be looking to come back into the office full time as well from sort of March onwards, COVID allowing. So we've got some really fantastic opportunities there. And, you know, our inward investment pipeline remains very, very strong. You know, and we've managed to, you know, from 2015 onwards, we were able to increase our digital sector, and thereby this year, obviously, that's been a great cushion for us, and we'll look to grow that even more in the future and look towards those industries that will help us buffer and weather any storms that might come in the future. But we're really, really positive about 2021 onwards, and you know, I think we'll be on the way to making a full recovery.
Mm. And last but certainly not least, from God's country itself, I say this as somebody who has lived in Lancashire for most of my life, I have to say, and once had the privilege of being a leader of the county council. So Rachel McQueen from Marketing Lancashire, delighted that you can join us, Rachel.
Thank you, Frank. Nice to be here.
And I know that, listen, we've had a number of conversations during lockdown, and lots of the plans that you had have sadly gone out of the window, like the colleagues on the call today. Nevertheless, Lancashire, I think, was in a great place prior to the pandemic hitting. And like Sheona was saying, I'm sure that some of those plans will still be relevant when we move into the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like everyone else, I think that, you know, we are trying to look ahead and kind of focus on where we'll be as we move into 2021. Lancashire actually did, you know, fairly well back in the summer when we first came out of the last lockdown, and we were able to kind of grab every opportunity and every visitor that we could. Likewise, our kind of town and city centres being smaller, you know, probably did do better in attracting some of that footfall back, maybe a little bit quicker. So obviously, we're very, very hopeful that we will repeat that next time we come out of lockdown. Like everybody else, we're trying to be positive about opening up on the 2nd of December, and our businesses have been really innovative and flexible in the way that they are dealing with that, offering voucher booking so you can have a physical booking. If you can't, we'll deliver your gourmet meal to your door, you know, all of those types of things. And really, you know, at the moment, we were about to launch a winter breaks, short breaks campaign. Clearly, we've had to put that on hold, like many things, but we're focusing very much now on Shop Lancashire and actually shopping local, as I'm sure most people will be, and buying those experiences and gifts kind of online to share with people, you know, as one way to try and get some money into businesses in the run up to Christmas. But yeah, as we look to 2021, we're ramping up our activity, bidding for City of Culture 2025, first people to go at it as a proper full-on county rather than a county wrapped around a single city offer. So that's really interesting, and that's, you know, driving a lot of that, you know, this virtual world that we've been living in for the past 12 months is really what we're trying to kind of springboard on from in some respects. You know, imagine a virtual city of 1.5 million people around kind of 4 different urban hubs, creating virtual neighbourhoods. So that we're really, really excited about that bid and kind of taking that out to the public, getting businesses and individuals engaged and on board. So yeah, looking very, very much ahead to that. And then just, you know, everything else in terms of, we've got still hopefully Eden project coming to the north, which will be a game changer for Morecambe and the coast up around Lancaster. And, you know, many other opportunities around our kind of investment sites. You know, I was speaking to, we've got an innovation board just established in Lancashire, and just before coming on here, I was talking to them and we're talking about all our innovation stories, and some of that is still so exciting. You know, we've got lots of stuff to tell the world about Lancashire, and, you know, this lockdown situation that we're in right now, you know, doesn't necessarily stop us doing that.
And you know, the great thing talking to the 4 of you is there is so much opportunity and positivity to look forward to. And I know that, you know, almost inevitably, I suppose, people will look at marketing and look at the roles that you people undertake and think about events. You know, but my take on this is the event sector, hardest hit though it's been, will come back very quickly, because as soon as this thing can be got rid of, then people will just revert to type. But the other side of your job, which is crucially important, more so in many respects, is attracting investment into the places where you work. And the cultural and events offer is so important to that. But equally, I know that you're having conversations with people who work alongside you in terms of economic development and growth about recovery plans. So I just want to move on to see where we're going in 2021 across the north, and where those opportunities and where that potential is going to be. Chris, I'm going to come back to you, because in Liverpool, We know how important the visitor economy has been, and we know that the commercial sector has grown alongside that, perhaps not as quickly as we'd like, but certainly a growing commercial sector. What we also know is that there's some big projects that are going to happen in 2021. I'm thinking about the Knowledge Quarter, I'm thinking about a new stadium for Everton Football Club, and I'm thinking about other things as well. So tell me about where you think Liverpool will be able to start to get on and do those projects next year.
I think, Frank, the position for Liverpool, I think, was going into the pandemic. We were flying going into the early part of the year. We had about £2 billion of inward investment lined up to be undertaken, and I think it's important that we understand that actually that hasn't disappeared. It's been postponed and it's been held back, but we're very confident that it's going to see the light of day come 21 onwards. And I think the economic recovery plan that was submitted by the city and the city region back in the summer to government, clearly laid out a very compelling case for government not to necessarily just give us money, but to be a co-investment partner in the success that was going to bring, not only the city but UK PLC. And you mentioned a number of significant projects there, capital projects. The Knowledge Quarter and Paddington Village has basically grown from strength to strength. It's been continually fitted and built out right the way through during the pandemic. That is significantly supporting and helping the city's position in the whole aspects of health and life sciences, and clearly is played a significant role in the mass testing that I referred to earlier because of that health back that we looked at. Yeah, I think then when you start to look at what we have planned coming forward, I think if you speak to the mayor or whether at city level or at city region level, they would say that actually there are some really infusing times ahead in terms of what's coming. I'm pretty sure that hopefully the stadium will be developed, but that's part of a much bigger production work on the Liverpool waters. We've got an investment framework at the moment out for the King's Dock area, which hopefully will be appointed soon. I think that's going to be really significant. We've got the movement of the new police headquarters. So when the police move out of where they are in the city, that is going to relinquish a huge asset into the city right next to Liverpool One. There's some really exciting and powerful conversations about that at the moment. So right across our waterfront, right the way down into the port area, there's some really significant developments taking place. And Liverpool needed to do that because, as we know, that during the period since Capital of Culture, Liverpool has built its economy very much on the visitor economy and culture. And that has created a really exciting sense of place, a vibrant and exciting city to enjoy. One of the reasons why we do so well on students, but in itself, it's also a challenge because 48% of our business rates comes from that economy. So we always had to basically diversify our economy. And I think the 10 years from when we had the 10 years since Capital of Culture was all about actually getting a better balance in our economy over the next 10 years between 2018 and 28, and using the power of culture and the power of the visitor economy and the offer of the city to basically make it a place that would attract talent. And I think all of us on the call will know that the key to inward investment, is not necessarily always about a site or a building. It's as much about providing a place where you can retain, recruit, and acquire great talent. And that is a challenge for us all. And I think Liverpool's on a very good trajectory to do that. I think it will need to be remodeled somewhat to ensure that, because obviously there will be different discussions about those who have committed to office space and how they may use that office space. But I don't for a second believe that the days of offices are finished in any manner, shape or form. I think there will still be requirements for that, but maybe slightly reconfigured floor plates for that. So I'm very optimistic about Liverpool going forward. I think we've got a really exciting time ahead of us. I think a bit like Sheona was talking about earlier in terms of Manchester. I think the projects and the ambitions that we had pre-COVID remain and stay, and we're as enthusiastic and confident about the delivery of those as we were going into it. It's just purely that they've been delayed and postponed. So You know, there are areas like the new cruise terminal that will have to fundamentally adapt and adopt to the changes in the cruise market. We have to see how that pans through. But I think there's the vast majority of the developers that we speak to are still fully committed. I think the deal that was done with the city between Scientech through Bruntwood and Legal in General went under the radar in Liverpool, but it was a massively important stage for Liverpool because it was a signification of the fact of how Liverpool's moved on to attract institutional investment into the city, and that is a thing that we've lacked for a long time, and it didn't necessarily get the coverage that was needed. But that was a massive move for the city in terms of those coming in, providing longer term investment into the city to allow us to basically build the infrastructure at the pace that fundamentally we need to do. So very confident about the future, Frank, in that. And I think, I think that's all good for us, but it's also good for the North, I think, in terms of things. The one thing I would say as part of all of that, we need better interconnectivity between our places. I think Northern Powerhouse rail is a really important factor for us. I think this ability to be able to, live in Manchester, work in Liverpool, live in Liverpool, work in Manchester type of analogy is absolutely critical to that acquiring and retention of talent. So there are a number of large-scale infrastructure at a northern level, which will be very important for us in order to encapsulate, deliver the ambitions we've got at the Liverpool level.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. And similarly, Sheona, I know some of the fabulous projects that actually weren't even stalled in Manchester. You only have to go into the city to see the cranes are still operating. The crane count in the city is incredible, actually. And of course, I can say this as a Scouser, Manchester is right at the heart of the Northern Powerhouse, is the key economic driver, I think. A couple of things I'd like you to just pick upon. Obviously, you will be aware that some of the bigger projects are going to continue. You've already mentioned factory, but there's more than that, of course. I'd just like you to reflect on where we are with aviation. And I know, again, this will impact in Leeds and Liverpool as well, but Manchester is our international airport, and how that is sort of being looked at in terms of moving forward and getting that to bounce back, because that's such a crucial part of the North's economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. It's a really good question in terms of international connectivity, because it drives most of our destinations and cities, doesn't it? In terms of international volumes to Manchester, we're quite lucky because we've got a balanced portfolio between the business traveller visitors, leisure visitors, and then students and visiting relatives and friends, etc. It's about a third each, roughly. So it means that when one gets hit, the other two can balance up. But when you've got no connectivity at all, it's just really hard to do it. I think we put a lot of work into our connectivity. We work really closely with the airport, and we try and do it on behalf of the North, because it is the gateway into the North. So any packages we put together goes into the North. But we had a meeting actually last week, a Global Travel Task Force meeting. It was organised by DCMS. So the airport, all the regional airports were at that meeting. And in summary, there's quite a few demands or asks that still would help, because it's just a standstill. Manchester Airport usually has about 90,000 passengers a day, and they'd be lucky to get 1,000 at the moment. They just can't, can't operate. It's drastic. So they're looking at probably half a dozen. I'll just share a few with you now. So APD, we are the highest in Europe in terms of airport duty. I think we're third highest in the world. So what, competition, especially coming out of Brexit, that's just got to be addressed. Tax-free shopping, although it's, it's a smaller, slimmer strand, but, to Manchester alone, that means £60 million a year in terms of revenue into a retailer. So it's a big deal for us. If that's stopped, that'd be crucial to get going. And I believe it was just stopped based on the digital platform and transacting and making that happen. So that needs to be done. But the confidence and comms, I go back to that, and the route development is so important. So we've already started talking to a few of the markets with the airports, and if we can help try to reinstate rather than renew, rather than develop new routes, we need to reinstate those direct flights pretty quickly. And that would come from, as Chris was saying about testing. It's got to be testing and vaccinations that are swift and leading edge. We've got to be, as a country, if we want to be globally competitive, we've got to do it better than anyone else. You know, friends of ours went to Madeira, they got in and out, quick testing, and we have not got something like that, a system like that yet, which is just, we just really need it. So on that route connectivity, it's so important. I would put it right up there, and I know that our Mayor Andy Burnham is really supportive of getting that connectivity back up and running again, because I think the consequences of it not, especially with the coming out of the EU, is just dramatic for us going forward. We put a lot of effort into specific markets. So the India partnership, which is really gaining momentum now, and has a multi approach. So we take, for instance, culture, a couple of the sectors, so either innovation, digital, health, for instance. We took a mission out to India last year, a Mero mission, and on the back of that, there's about 40 projects in the pipeline with India, just on the back of that one mission. So that's really important for us, as is China. As you know, China Forum's been running for a long while, and we're looking at Japan because of that free trade agreement, potentially. And I think for all of us, that would be an important one to get right now.
I'm just moving away from the airport because clearly it is a big deal. It's massive, as I say, for the whole of the North's economy. But I'm looking also at things like the development of East Manchester and the massive catalyst that Manchester City and its new stadium acted as there. Thinking about what potentially could happen in Liverpool, of course, on the back of Everton's proposed site. And then the city centre development, Sheona, you know, we touched upon this briefly. It'd be interesting to get the other panelists' views on this as well. My sense is that back in March, April, May, when the sun was shining, people had a bit of a spring in the step. We thought we were going to be out of this thing by September at the latest. Working from home was quite an attractive proposition. Didn't seem too bad. I'm not sensing from either social media channels or the people that I speak to on a weekly basis that it's quite as an attractive proposition when you sat at your kitchen table on a laptop staring out at the, to use a technical term, pissing down rain. And of course, that happens a lot in Manchester particularly. So I'm more optimistic, I think, than many are, that actually we will see more people returning to the office in the new year. I actually think that though these things are great, you know, and your contributions today are fabulous, this would be so much better as a live event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, events, I think what we'll see though, if we look at the data, we're not seeing the hit now. I think we will though downstream. We're human beings, we need to interact for productivity and creativity and all the rest of it. So I think fine for now, for 6 months, maybe 8 months, but I think we'll see a knock next year. And I think that's why I think I appreciate some independent research on that, Frank. Yeah. But in terms of, you said about the developments within the city. So East Manchester, as you know, massive developments already. The new second stadium is still on course in terms of going in there. That's massive. And I think a global city like Manchester can wear that. It's quite interesting that the City Council is saying that 95% of the planned sites are still going ahead. So they're very bullish in terms of the investment, the cranes, as you said, and in particular, the 3 campaigns that we'll be working on to support that is green. So green mops up absolutely loads. We've just been voted by the Resonance Report, which is quite a credible report, the 6th greenest city in the world. And that's because, and that's the Greater Manchester. Now, Green City might not come to light when you think about Manchester City, but if you look at Greater Manchester, some of the local authorities have got 65% tree cover. So it's massive in terms of green, physical green, but it's also the infrastructure, and we'll see that coming on board. That whole infrastructure for green, walkability, cycle, all the infrastructure that's going in, we'll really see that come forward in the next 18 months. And that's one thing that our region really believes, that in that medium to longer term is building back better, to not forget about congestion, not to forget about all the problems we had before with that, that commuter mentality. And I think if the agile working and green congestion is, in terms of problems, if we can fix those problems and not go back, that would just be brilliant. On the other side, we've got innovation and digital. So we've just got into the second in Europe for digital investment. So the city's taking that really seriously. And I think those two things, digital and green, is something that we've seen come out of this strange time over the last 6 months. It's really important going forward. So, in terms of marketing place, that, that green, innovation and digital, I think have all come out of and have been accelerated from COVID.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, again, if it can come to you, Belinda, in Leeds, we've mentioned Channel 4, we've mentioned the Premier League football and the visitor economy, but health and innovation are crucial offers for the city. And the other thing I'd just like you to touch upon is, we talked about connectivity across the north, but HS2 is a massive deal for Leeds, because I think it's already very well connected in terms of the capital city. This is where I might get a bit controversial because obviously it's a total northern audience today, I think. I think that we've got to really support London getting back on its feet as well, because it's such a crucial aspect of our GDP and our economic growth as a country. But, when I was thinking about HS2 and what that would mean to Leeds, it was really exciting, because in terms of that London to Leeds link, it'd just be superb, wouldn't it? So, yeah, tell us about health and innovation in the city, plans that you've got in that space, but also the HS2 opportunity as well.
Yeah, so thanks, Frank. I mean, essentially, health tech and health products have done exceptionally well throughout COVID, and we're really pleased that sector, it continues to grow. Our innovation and our partnerships with universities and with our international sort of audience as well, and bridging that health tech sort of innovation side is key to us, particularly post-Brexit. We're concentrating on markets in North America and China. We're also looking to Japan with the recent trade deals, and I think we're really excited as to what can be delivered, in terms of UK trade deals post-Brexit. But yeah, connectivity, obviously crucial in terms of attracting that inward investment as well. And we're hugely excited by the prospect of HS2, but also the interconnectivity between the cities as well, with the Northern Powerhouse rail, as and the investment that's potentially there as well. In terms of London, I mean, we're only 2 hours away from London anyway. I know when I worked in London, I'd sort of travel down from Yorkshire, and people would be quite amazed, and I'd work alongside people in Bromley, and it'd take them 2 hours to get in as well. So, effectively, yeah, HS2 is hugely exciting, but we've got some pretty good connectivity already. And in terms of London and supporting London, we've got our Leeds in London event fairly soon at the end of November. We're looking at legal tech and innovation as well, because COVID has obviously accelerated an awful lot of trends that were already there. And, in terms of attracting, legal companies to Leeds, it's a growing market. It's a hugely exciting market. So we're working in conjunction with the City of London and partnership working there as well. So it's all very exciting. We've also, obviously, we've managed to secure our digital sector that I've already alluded to there. We've grown by 67% since 2015, huge growth. We've got 30,000 people working in that industry now, but the green sector is also very important for us, and we're getting inquiries left, right and centre at the moment from green energy companies wanting to move to Leeds and take advantage of, you know, the supply chain that we've got, you know, within our grasp. So it's a really positive picture. I know the situation that we're in at the moment doesn't feel that positive, but if we can possibly look post-COVID, post-Brexit, and you know, just to throw something else into the mix, we're obviously dealing with the West Yorkshire devolution from May as well. But you know, with all of that in the mix, we've got a very exciting future ahead.
Thanks, Belinda. And Rachel, we won't talk about devolution in Lancashire because we could be here all day. But nonetheless, just picking up on something that both Sheona and Belinda have referred to, and that's the green agenda. And what a great place that is, a great space for Lancashire to be in, because, you know, I think we're already seeing the county leading the way in so many aspects of that particular agenda. And you've been talking about your economic recovery plan alongside the local enterprise partnership, alongside the county council. And there's so many great investment opportunities. And I sense, Rachel, that, you know, for whatever reason, the government are seriously looking at Lancashire as a place that can help catapult the economy forward when we come out of this thing.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, on the green side of things, Lancashire, we're 80% rural and 137 miles of coastline. So we have a, you know, that on the green kind of infrastructure side of things, we've got, you know, many natural assets, areas of natural beauty, all of these types of things. So a great place to live and work. We're also kind of at the leading edge on the green energy side of things as well, with the Fylde Coast and multiple innovative businesses based there looking at renewable energies. Small nuclear reactor specialisms go into that as well. So there's, you know, there's many strengths there in Lancashire, and I think that, you know, as you said at the start, all of the whole of the north really was very, you know, kind of in a real state of momentum, you know, kind of galvanizing and moving forwards and bringing innovative businesses to the fore. And, you know, we will continue to do that. I mean, I think one of the things about Lancashire, people ask me about what the kind of USP is for the county, but, you know, we are a place that makes things, and we always have done, we always will do, and, you know, innovation is very much part of that, but it's also it's people that make things, and, you know, you can't have innovation without innovative minds and organisations, and we're very fortunate to have that kind of in our DNA in Lancashire, and we actually share it across the entire north, and particularly, I mean, Liverpool and Manchester used to be part of Lancashire, so we still very much feel very closely connected. And I think we've got some great opportunities to support UK PLC to help grow out of this. You know, the levelling up agenda gets talked about a lot, but I think, you know, really, if government takes us seriously, the North can help pull this entire country out of where we are in, if, you know, if given the support and impetus to do so. So, you know, I think it's really critical that, you know, Lancashire takes our place in the Northern Powerhouse, but we work alongside all of our partners across the north to really kind of support UK's, you know, hopeful bounce back from, you know, from this situation.
And if I could just go back to the connectivity discussion, Rachel, again, it's a very disparate place as Lancashire, huge county, and obviously, as you said, you know, rural often, but very significant economic hubs, none least than Preston. And again, I'm aware of some exciting plans to take what is now a city. Some people forget that sometimes, but I don't, as being part of the bidding team that put the whole thing together. And Preston, again, fabulous connections to London, and some, I think, great potential for that city to grow going forward.
Yeah, and you've talked about HS2, and HS2 will be important for Preston as well, because we'll probably be, I think, ideally still the last kind of hub on that before you jump on up to Scotland. So yeah, I think that there's some great investment going on around there. Obviously, University of Central Lancashire have put an awful lot of energy and investment into their own campus and their energy engineering innovation centre, which has got some great public realm space in front of it as well. So they're really thinking about how those developments and investments impact on the community of Preston, not just on the students who benefit from obviously those assets that exist there. So yeah, I think Preston really is beginning to tell its story very in a very connected way. The council working with the university are very, very ambitious. I mean, they were going to be a key part of our delegation to MIPIM earlier this year, which obviously didn't then take place. But there's hugely exciting things happening here, and it's all surrounded as well by a real investment in infrastructure and in housing to make sure that we've got the places for people to live when we attract them to come here through things like the city deal and the growth deal. So yeah, lots of, like everywhere else, lots of investment continuing to happen, because we do know that this isn't forever. We will get through this, and we want to be prepared to build that momentum again very, very quickly when we can.
And this wasn't rehearsed, but Rachel's just provided me with the ideal segue for what is possibly going to be my last question. I'll just say to people who are watching today, if you want to put a question into the chat room, please feel free. I know somebody has, and I will address the Newcastle question in a moment. But Chris, MIPIM, it's been a huge part of the way in which our places have helped to market internationally. Not going to happen in March. They're hoping that the event goes ahead in June. So what's Liverpool's thoughts at the moment on that International Property Festival? I ask, of course, because downtown has a huge membership in the property sector.
Yeah, we could have an entire webinar on Read My Dem and MIPIM, I think. I think our view on it is that, particularly for 21, that it's going to have to be steady as it goes. There is not, I don't think, the appetite across our sector of real estate to take the same level of presence that we've had there previously until things settle down a little bit more. I think also it's probably an opportunity, whether they'll take it or not is another matter, for Read My Dem to have a look at the whole context of MIPIM and what it stands for. There's been a lot of challenges in that space for them over the years, and I'm hoping that they will also, pick up some of these issues that we're talking about today around the green agenda, around the positioning of the offer of MIPIM. But I don't have any doubt also that physical events and physical presence on international stages, whether it's MIPIM, whether it's Expo Real or others, will still play an important part of our calendar of opportunities to tell our story, because they provide platforms for us. Whether we will tell that story in a similar platform to how we've done in the past, I think is open to question. And I think we need to think about that, because I think we need to think about whether there are different and more innovative ways we can tell that story. But I think we still see the physical events like MIPIM as being critically important to us to get the story out there, because it's not just for us as organisations that get involved in the organisation of that, it's the platform for our businesses to sell their offer, and they rely on the destinations in order to try and provide that platform for us. But I don't think it will go back. And in the context, I think there's a lot of things we talk about here that are about recognising that we just won't go back to normal again, that there is going to be a new normal. And, we just can't expect everything to just dial back to February and everything will go back. And MIPIM is exactly the same in that space. And we've learned a lot through the ability to use technology to reach audiences that we wouldn't normally have reached. So I have no doubt that there will be a kind of hybrid model around physical and virtual, which will give us the opportunity to tell that story more effectively than probably we did when we overly relied on the physical environment. But it will play an increasing point for us. And I think that to me is also about what we've learned during COVID, Frank, because I think what has happened, and I think which has been very positive, has been, especially in the city, has been the levels of the collaboration between the public and private sector, the ability to get things done quicker. I mean, you know, the rearranging of the city to embrace the opportunities to get more pavement licenses through the Liverpool Without Walls programme. I think, you know, we've been talking about pedestrianising areas of the city for years. We did it in 4 weeks. So I actually think there is a real appetite there. If we can, you know, the things that we've had to come together through a crisis, we really have to make sure that we don't lose that prospect. But also, I think that there's a critical factor of making sure that for things like McQueen, we've got the businesses that we need to be present there. They've got to survive during this period. We've got to make sure that they are part of the furniture going forward, because they gave us our proposition in the first place. And that is not just those who operate businesses, it's the freelancers, it's the various other parts of that make up that ecosystem, which is critically important, that allows us to go to McQueen or other places such as that with a very strong proposition. So that's kind of my view on it. But I do feel, as I say, that we have to reflect, learn, and recognise that actually we're all going to come out of this at the same speed across the world. And actually the rebuilding of our audiences, the real building of demand, the different way we'll tell the story about what we want people to think about our cities will be different to what we would have talked about 10 months ago.
And Sheona, just picking up on something you were saying earlier, actually, in terms of post-Brexit opportunities, I think Belinda mentioned this. So McQueen has always been a key part of Manchester's marketing strategy as well. But are there now perhaps other conversations happening where we're looking at where else we might be able to take the Manchester message? Because, as you were saying, Japan, India, these new markets are opening up, and that's not necessarily going to be the space where McQueen can help. Oh, sorry, Sheona, you're muted there.
You think we'd learn by now? Sorry about that. McQueen's so important for Manchester, as you know. Our relationship with Reed Maidham really strong, but for this next 12 to 18 months, I think we've got to take the feedback from our partners, and the partners' feedback is just to take the risk out of the actual platform event. But that doesn't take away from the stories and the development that we've got to share. It's still going on. So what we're looking at is how do we get that message out to the marketplace, and how can we still work with Reed Maidham and the McQueen structure. So what we're going to do is we've got an event which is virtual now. It's in February in London, working with London and many other cities that are going to go to that, the Barbican, a 2-day event. So we've got that in the calendar, and what we'll do is fix some other events around that over the next 18 months. We do expect to be there whenever the postponed event takes shape, but it won't be for next year. It won't be our own stand. I think we'll be either partnering with others or going in with DIT. But I think there's so many other opportunities to get the story out, and that hybrid event, working with other cities, looking at different platforms. I think it's probably something that we've been thinking about for a long time. So now, like COVID, I keep going back to, actually it's unlocking opportunities to think about things in a different way. But there's so many stories still to tell, and it will be around innovation and green. So whether, that and digital, so whether that be, cyber side, or all of the developers will have great green and innovation stories to tell in all of that. Innovation districts with the university, so new innovation district Manchester with the University of Manchester, that's just launched last year at McQueen. But then the other GM innovation, which is looking at 16 innovation sites around GM as potential incubation and innovation hubs. So all of that, we've got a great story to tell. We just need to get the message out in other ways that are perhaps not as risky for partners at the moment.
Belinda, likewise, the McQueen question to you, and perhaps other international platforms that Leeds is exploring.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, obviously, we're dialing down any sort of presence that we may or may not have at McQueen in June of this year. It doesn't mean to say we're ruling it out for future, but we do need to look at a more targeted approach, I think, for the next 12 to 18 months. And we are looking at a number of partnerships, whether we can work together, to actually amplify our message jointly. on the international stage, and we've got a global campaign that we're starting through our international relations team and inward investment team post Brexit, looking at really showcasing what Leeds has to offer on a global stage, so outside of Europe. So I think it's watch this space at the moment.
Okay. And Rachel, final word to you on this. So we've got a very unique MIPIM offer from Lancashire. It's been, I think, really innovative, the approach that you took over the last couple of years. And I know you had some great plans back in March, but what's your thinking around it?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we were really building momentum at MIPIM and doing it in a slightly different way. And we were looking forward to taking our biggest ever delegation in 2020. But as I think Chris said, MIPIM is important to us, but it is one platform, and there are many other ways that we can and will be telling, our story. And for Lancashire, I think, I've already mentioned people. We do it through our people. We've got a group of Lancashire ambassadors who are heading up our innovative businesses based all across Lancashire. Whether that's Vika, manufacturing windows, or Panaz on textiles, or Scorpion Automotive. So there's a real broad base of businesses. Booths are our wonderful retailer. And they're all working together and with us to try and help us tell Lancashire's story. And they are the people with international reach and international connections. And we are hoping to activate them, whether we have to do it virtually or physically. But I do believe that as soon as we are able to meet again in person and do these events physically, there will be an appetite to do it. And we very much intend to make sure that Lancashire is part of all of that activity and joining up with our Northern Powerhouse colleagues to tell the story of the North and for us, Lancashire's place within it.
Thanks, guys. I'm conscious that we're literally 2 minutes away from the bewitching hour of 1 o'clock, and we've told you and the people that have joined us that we'll be finished by then. So let me just quickly say to Susan, Newcastle Gateshead wasn't forgotten about, but you've seen how difficult it's been to fit in everything we wanted to talk about with 4 panelists. 5 would have been stretching it, and then we'd have had questions from Sheffield as to why they weren't involved, and Cheshire as well, where Downtown has a membership. So I apologise to the Geordies, but I can promise you that Nick Forbes is going to be doing an interview with me between now and Christmas. So that's something for you to look forward to. And in terms of this idea, could we have a free up Friday across the North? I'm sure that's something that we'll reflect upon. And I'll ask the panelists to drop me a quick note and we'll respond to that. But listen, it's been great to hear a positive message from our heads of marketing our places. The future of placemaking is in safe hands. There's some great things to look forward to in Lancashire, Liverpool, Leeds and Manchester. And roll on 2021. More importantly at the moment, roll on this bloody presidential election result. Dear me, I tell you, you might get all the returning officers from your particular places to come on and talk about their reflections on what's happening in the state at the moment. Great to speak to you guys. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hope to see you face to face very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, Frank.